Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are excited because we just got off planes coming back from FinOpsX.
Just
Yeah,
landed and both
literally
here.
just landed. Yeah, we managed to get back in time. And Natalia's happily come on to talk a little bit about FinOpsX, a little about reInvent, but mainly about the well-architected framework and pillars and how important it is to architect when it comes to the world of cost. Well, Natalia, how are you apart from just getting off a plane?
I'm great, very excited, and I'm still processing the thoughts from the FinOpsX FinOpsX Europe in Barcelona. Not just any FinOpsX, right? Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lot of interesting conversations, a lot of notes, a lot of feedback. I'm really happy that we hear a lot of feedback from our customers and partners that we at AWS are doing great things in terms of, cloud financial management and cost optimization. So it really motivates us to do even more great things. So yeah, very excited.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, everybody in the chat, Cosplayer here. Nice to see you, Natalia. And thank you for being here, Cosplayer. Everyone, remember the chat is there for you to ask us questions, prompts, and anything you want to know. But we'll get into it because we're doing a whole episode all about loads of different things today. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch. I'm a senior optimization architect advocate here to help you on your FinOps journey. And like I said, Natalia is with me today. Let's get into your background, your kind of 1 minute origin story really quickly so everyone knows who you are, and then we'll go into all the other bits and bobs we've got for today.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Natalia. I'm the solution architect on the cloud optimization success team at AWS. And in our team, we help customers to improve their architectural health, improve their cloud optimization. And we focus on a lot of things related to well-architected and on the kind of conversational and automated discovery of their workloads to make sure that they run efficiently. And before this team, I used to be a specialist or specialist technical account manager in cost optimization. So yeah, cloud financial management, cost optimization, and FinOps is like my jam, basically. And yeah, I've been in AWS for about 8 years. I've worked with a lot of customers in Europe in particular, especially on anything cost management, cost optimization related for many years now. So happy to
Yeah,
be here. Thanks for inviting me.
pleasure is all mine. We've already got lots of highs in the chat. Hi for DK. Hi for Cloud Without Strife. Loved getting a selfie with Steph at FinOpsX. Loved it.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that, about
Yeah.
Steph's pants at
You know,
FinOpsX.
I'll say that now. Thank you so much for everyone. Oh, we had Natalia, cost optimization tab extraordinaire, Cloud Strife
Oh
user as
wow.
well. The famous now sad fans, but yes, thank you to everybody who came up and said hi at FinOpsX, people that I had met before, people I hadn't met before, people who watched the show. Thank you for tuning in each week and watching it. I'll keep making it as long as you guys want it. And people that I'd met years ago, I was able to speak to, some people from South Africa who watched the show. So yes, I just want to say thank you to everybody. And if you're watching and you're like, hey, what are all these episodes? Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of the episodes that we have on here. So with that, let's talk a little bit about FinOpsX, and I'm just going to show this lovely little screen grab of us lot. Some of the people from Amazon who were there. It was great, nice like time with us all. We had a lovely team that went along with some PMs who did some nice kind of customer sessions, got some feedback from customers. But Nat, how did you find it? What kind of things did you notice people talking about?
Um, for me, it was very interesting to talk to customers directly and hear their feedback. I noticed some trends. So there were certain kind of recurring topics that people were either asking about or providing feedback. I'd say, like, if I wanted to say what are the like top 3 kind of trends or
Mhm.
topics that I saw people were discussing. One is definitely regarding the business value. How do we get the business value out of FinOps? How do we like quantify that business value? So any conversations regarding unit metrics and kind of connecting, business with the tech teams. that was very interesting, especially to hear from the sessions that were presented at the event. Another thing is sustainability. Sustainability is a big topic, and I like to see that there's a good focus on that amongst a lot of customers. And one more that I'm quite passionate about is the shift left. So how do we engage with the engineering development teams at the early stages of the development, at the early stages of the kind of workload building process, to ensure that they are building it cost effectively and cost efficiently. So yeah, and from what I can tell, all the FinOps practitioners, like, they are pretty busy figuring this out. So it's interesting to see how we can kind of come all together as a community and try to solve these problems. Those were my
definitely. And it was interesting this time. One thing that I noticed was in previous years, and also at previous Amazon events and FinOps events, I've had people come up to me and ask very kind of simple questions in terms of like they're getting started or they're looking at tagging or cross allocation. And this time, the questions that I was pulled into a lot of the time were like far more complex or very specific about things, where they wanted to compare different data sets, or which tool should they use, or what is the best practice for this kind of security element with cost. And they were very like granular bits of questions, which for me is great. It's really exciting to see people have kind of gone that bit further. And obviously we still have people coming up and we were like, have you heard of Care 2.0? Oh, which reminds me, slipping this in before I forget,
Yes.
for those who know, I love Care 2.0. One of the topics that I'm passionate about this year, have a new blog on how and why you should be using Care 2.0. So make sure you go and check that out. And if you are watching this on YouTube, all the links will be below in the chat. But yeah, I'd love getting loads of different specific details. We actually had one question just now I'm going to bring up, which is multi-cloud strategy more efficient, or does it create more challenges in terms of maintenance? And I'll have a go at this, and Nat, if you want to add anything after. Multi-cloud strategy is, when I was doing it, so I speak from my experience when I was a customer, we did multi-cloud. And the main reason we did it was because the clouds offered different capabilities. And so we would be very selective about whatever business value or business product we were working on and what elements it needed. And then we would choose a cloud based on that. It does make it a little bit, you have lots of different data sources, but I would say with Focus coming out in the last year, it does make your billing a little bit easier. So Focus is a data set which is following the FinOps Foundation schema. We produce it in our data exports, and it allows it to be a normalized view of spend across cloud. So you can add these things up together. So it's easier than ever to do chargeback across multi-cloud. But anything else you want to add to that question, Nat?
No, I agree. Regarding the cost perspective specifically, we had a lot of conversations at FinOpsX as well about the focus format of the cost and usage reports in our case. So I think this will be much easier in that sense going forward. But overall, you always have to look at the business outcomes and what you want to achieve. So as Steph mentioned, so it really comes down to the capabilities that you are trying to implement in your organization, and then you just need to do what's best for your organization. One thing I'll say is that multi-cloud can be challenging, and one challenge is related to kind of moving the data around between different clouds, like the data transfer. Data transfer was also another topic at FinOpsX, like people were asking questions about. Generally, like moving data around is one of the challenges too. So, there are kind of different considerations that you have to make.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about Focus, I've just dropped the internal link in there. But you know what? I want to ask the audience, who was at FinOpsX? Is anybody watching who was at FinOpsX? 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 for I wish if you wanted to join. It would be good to see if anyone was in the audience. We had a lot of fun. I think this is the only one they're not doing FinOpsX Europe next year, that we know. But hopefully, if you weren't able to join this time, you might be able to go to San Diego, which you can see Cloudslayer was. So some people were there. So well done if you have arrived and come straight onto Twitch. Welcome. And thank you for
Maybe they're still watching from Barcelona.
Yeah, that's it. It's actually, it's all the team. They're just like, they went on the big screen in the hotel, which is great. So now, did you go to any sessions that were not any good, that you really inspired you or anything? Okay, good.
Because we had to work quite a lot at the booth and we had a lot of people coming over to ask questions,
Yes.
I only really had a chance to attend one session and I wasn't disappointed. I was very excited.
Good.
I think the name of the session was something along the lines like the cost of roasting your chicken.
I've heard,
Basically, it's
okay,
about
those
units.
guys, they spoke to me. We're going to try and get them on the show because everyone was raving about this session. So I'm like,
It
I
was
will get those
great,
guys on.
and well, it was about like unit metrics or kind of unit economics, and
Ah,
trying to understand, how your infrastructure cost relates to the value that your products are delivering. Or in their case, it was like the amount of connected. Sorry, the company that was doing the session was
yeah.
Electrolux, so they have all these kind of smart devices at home. So
Ah,
like for it was very interesting to see how like the infrastructure cost when they looked at it, how it could kind of correlate to, let's say, the number of connected devices,
yeah.
and then how they were like doing the cost optimization to ensure that the
Wow.
number of connected devices is growing while the infrastructure cost stays the same or goes down. I was very excited, and like they talked about best practices that we tell our customers to do, and they are actually doing them. They are implementing those
Yeah.
best practices. Yeah,
That is amazing. I love that. Okay, I'm gonna seek out that video and or at least maybe I won't seek out the video and I'll get them on the show. But I love the idea of I just
do
remember
that.
people talking about chickens and I was like, what is roasted chicken? But like you, I planned out all of my agenda, all the sessions I want to go to. All I went to was the keynote, but the keynotes were good. And a very exciting announcement. We actually were able to announce this blog series, not blog series, I've got a link to the blog. This learning series that Natalia and I worked on with some other people you sit in the show as well, a bunch of people behind the scenes, and created this new training course for you guys to all take. I can show there's John talking about it up on stage. So if you want to upskill for free, then make sure you check out our new digital training courses. It was really fun making them. Now, which one did you do? You focused on the optimization one, right?
I'd say the final version
The
that we
final.
were finalizing. Yeah, mine was with Adam, who will also be at reInvent, speaking at the breakout session. So we might later pop it on the screen, some of the sessions that will be at reInvent. We did the fourth one, which is the kind of cost optimization techniques for some of the commonly used services. I'm very excited about this course because it took us quite, well, it's more like a curriculum of 4
Yeah.
courses. It took us quite long to get a good number of SMEs from AWS internally to create the content, to put it all together, to finalize it together with the training certification team. Yeah, I later plan to post something on LinkedIn to tag everyone and let everyone know, all
Yeah.
of our contributors and how it
Just
all came
well done.
together.
I'm
And
clapping.
it's
I'm
a free
clapping for
course.
everyone.
It was interesting. Again, somebody was asking at the FinOpsX about them, and when I said it's free courses, and they looked surprised. It is free. You can go and upskill your teams and learn more about different techniques and best practices and how to do cost optimization.
Exactly. Yeah, I focused on the first one, so the kind of fundamentals of FinOps, and then we've also had Connor doing one, who's been on the show before. Judith did one, so we had a bunch of people like Natalia mentioned that were in the background, but these guys owned it. So yeah, watch out on socials, and we'll be sharing more. But yeah, try the courses out. Go get yourself a little bit of learning. Maybe you'll learn something new and some exciting stuff. But yeah, once John announced it, people like came out of the hall and they were like, "Where's this free course?" And oh, speaking of free, I'm just going to plug something else, guys. We're in a very pluggy mood this morning of things that I've done. If you are interested in free things, tomorrow at 5 p.m. my time, at 5:30 my time. I'm in the UK, so whatever time. What's that? 9:30? Yeah, 9:30 Pacific. There is a course on this channel. You come back right here, and it's all about free tier, and we're doing it for 2 more weeks. So make sure you check that out. But I wanted to announce we did a little game at our event. So AWS hosted a little soiree. I kept calling it my party at one point, and I was like, no, it's AWS's party, a little networking event. And you know me, guys, I'm not just going to do a normal networking event. So we came up with human bingo. If anyone's played that before, chat. Has anyone done human bingo? That hopefully some of you know what that is.
I have a
And
strategy how to win those. Won't tell
yes,
anyone.
cheeky. And what we did was we put it to be focused on kind of CFM practices. So have you deployed CAD 2.0? Are you in finance? Have you done the focus certification? And I want to announce Eva from Roche. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the
Roche,
company.
yeah. Roche,
Yeah, Roche. Eva, well done, you won. I will be announcing that on LinkedIn, but thank you for everyone who participated. She will be getting some kind of Amazon device based on her region, because we had a lot of discussions about why can't we just give them an Amazon device. I was like, you don't want one from the UK if you're in Spain or something, because the plug will be wrong. Anyway, on to our last kind of topic, which was about partners. There were so many amazing booths, so much swag, which I'll touch on in a sec. But Natalia, tell us about some of the partners you chatted to.
Yeah, what I liked about talking to all the partners is that it's interesting to see how they are sort of closing the gaps of either on the tooling or the processes or the kind of consulting part, especially the ones that are trying to do this kind of shift left scope. And we might talk about this later as we talk about the well-architected best practices. So those partners also who focus on automation and multi-cloud. And when I'm saying like kind of closing the gap, it's like, there are certain things that we from AWS side cannot do. Like, for example, we cannot look into your application. We cannot look into your data. So this is something that is like customer's responsibility. So some partners are doing some really cool stuff that are helping customers to optimize before they even deploy on AWS. So that's quite interesting. Also, we got a lot of swag from them.
Yeah, if anybody, there's a company in Fragosa, there's a video of Natalia and I eating a fortune cookie from their stand on LinkedIn, if you saw that. But then we did a video with them, so if you're interested in, they are a very good shifting left company.
What was your fortune cookie? What was your?
Oh God, I put it in.
Was something to do with turning off instances and volumes, I think.
I think so. Yeah,
and mine was like about following tagging policies.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, please, let's go.
But in a very like fortune cookie language, so it was very fun. But yeah, swag. I got some great swag. One of the best ones I think is which I definitely need, is like a cleaner for your laptop keyboard, was pretty cool. 0.5, who also I did that very funny puzzle video for on social media, had like a little survival pack which has like plasters, Tic Tacs, hand gel, and stuff like that. And then the best one is the company that remembered me for purely the fact that I kept coming back, which is Yarkin, I think that's how you pronounce it. Is they have this Whittaker's chocolate, which is my absolute favorite, and I kept coming back to them and stealing their chocolate. So shout out to everyone's swag game and this t-shirt that we love. So on to the very last thing, which is reInvent is coming up. We've mentioned this a few times, but if you are going to reInvent, question to the audience then. Who is going to reInvent? 1 in the chat for yes, 2 in the chat for no. Hopefully you guys are coming. But Natalia, what have you got going on at reInvent this year?
Oh, we've got quite a lot. I'm not sure if you have that, slide with the reInvent sessions that you can pop up later on screen, but we have a bunch of very useful, interesting sessions on CFM. Almost all of them already have like the kind of pre-booked seats done, but you can still come over to the room, and you most likely will have still places, so you'll be able to come and listen to us. I'll have a workshop together with Chris Strelchik, who is managing the Courier library, together with Justin, and Steph will be doing a talk with Justin. So
yeah.
We are doing a workshop on the advanced cost allocation strategies for the containers workloads, like EKS and ECS in particular. And for those who are familiar with the new split cost allocation data feature that was launched for like cost and usage reports. So we will dive deep a little bit into that and how we can do kind of cost allocation for containerized workloads. Yeah, I will also do, since today we are talking about architecture a little bit, and specifically cost optimization pillar, just in a few minutes. We will have a chalk talk on the architecture track regarding making architectural trade-offs and balancing cost, security, and resilience. Balancing cost, security, resilience in the AWS architectures. We can probably put that chalk talk in the chat. Oh, yeah, I see we've got that. ARC 313. I think the seats are done, like the how is it called? The pre-booking, yeah. But most likely you'll be able to come in, and there will likely be seats. Chalk talks are my favorite because this is a very interactive session where we want to engage with the audience, and we want people to get to talk to us and share feedback, ask questions, and also provide solutions. So hopefully by the end of the session, we kind of find a solution how to make architectural trade-offs in the right way.
Nice.
Yeah,
then
so
if
I
you,
guess like I'll
yeah.
leave it at that, because we of course will have cloud financial management booth, we will have an architecture booth, we will have cloud operations booth, and generally in AWS Village, if you will be there at the expo at Venetian, you will definitely see us around.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
can't wait to
And
see everyone.
yeah, and we got a couple of I'm doing so if you actually want to chat one-on-one with me, I guess people want to do that. They did it the last couple of years. I'm doing something called Peer Talk. If you go on the event app, the very first page, it says Peer Talk. If you go across to meetings, you can actually book a meeting with me. So you can search for Steph Gooch and we can book a one-on-one meeting. So I think Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday and Wednesday, I have time slots for those. But come and ask any FinOps questions. Come and chat about anything you want. If it includes Funko Pops, I'm open for that too. So anything you want to talk about. And we have two questions in the chat. The first thing is, can I get a recorded version of reInvent? Are any of your sessions recorded?
So the breakout sessions are recorded. Those are like the big kind of presentations on the big stage. All the other types of sessions are not recorded. We might think about coming to Steph's show maybe and present something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we will do is I will, oh, that is an error. Someone just points out that there's an error. What I'll do is figure that out in a second. Sorry. Is if anybody wants any of the sessions recorded, then we'll definitely put them up on YouTube. We did that last year, so my session is not being videoed. It's a code talk. We'll be live querying, like Natalia said, with Justin. So I'm going to record it beforehand and have it released after reInvent. So don't worry, everybody who's watching and can't come to reInvent, you'll still be able to see my session, and we'll try and get as many of those recorded as we can. So make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel to see that. Someone has just pointed out there's an error with the link I shared. Feel free to just go on the event app and then get that. That's the link I was given. Maybe it doesn't work. So go to the event app on your phone. You'll see Peer Talk, and in that you'll be able to find me. I'll share some screenshots later, but thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that. And can I display those sessions that I did before? Of course I can. Let's pull those up. So my session is the 403, the analyzing your costs, the very first one. But yeah, take a screenshot of these, use these as your guide for getting around reInvent. And also don't forget, if you're watching this online, you can watch it on YouTube and catch that screenshot again. But let's move into our actual topic. Yeah, all the reInvent chatter. Also, guys, feel free, any questions, comments, put them in the chat about anything. We are here to help. So let's get into the well-architected stuff. So Natalia, please can you enlighten us, or what is well-architected?
Yeah, I think I'll make a little connection with like what we were talking about the FinOps, right? And that a lot of the customers and partners are moving towards this kind of shift left mentality, where we want customers to be efficient, before they deploy or before they start operating on the cloud. For example, well-architected framework and the best practices described in that framework are a very good resource to help AWS users and AWS customers to do that. So effectively, the well-architected helps cloud architects, cloud builders to build secure, high-performing, resilient, and of course, efficient infrastructures for a variety of applications and workloads. It's primarily based around 6 pillars. Okay, let me try to see if I can name them in the correct order. So currently, the 6 pillars are operational excellence, security, resiliency, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. I hope I named them in the correct order.
I think that's some more, yeah.
We always play this game within our team. Every time we kind of present the whole architected framework, we try to remember that by heart, and we sometimes make mistakes and then ask audience whether they noticed maybe we named them in the wrong order. So yeah. So a little bit of history about the well-architected for some people who might not be familiar. So the way how it all was created at the beginning, I think it was back in 2012 when we only had 4 pillars. So operational excellence and sustainability were not in the framework at that time. And it was more like a way for the solution architects at AWS to work with their customers and talk about best practices, how they should be building their workloads. And yes, cost optimization was there. So it was quite some time ago when these main pillars were defined. And so when the SAs, AWS SAs were working with their customers, they were looking at some of the best practices that they were following and things that that worked for their workloads and applications. And then there were certain things that customers were doing that were not really let's say we're not following best practices, and we're not helping the application to perform to the best as it should be performing. And so out of those conversations with customers, then all of these different solution architects at AWS came up with this written best practices that later were turned into like white papers. I think originally it was something like Excel spreadsheets with some links and to documentation, as it often starts. And then so we have white papers for each of the pillars, and within my organization, within my team, we have the guidance team who is like regularly updating that guidance based on the industry trends, based on the feedback from customers and what we see customers are doing in the field. And based on the real use cases and feedback. And by the way, just very recently we released one of the latest updates, the latest version, latest updates to the framework, and the major updates were done to the reliability pillar. So I can later find the link and share in the chat, so for those who are not familiar. So that's kind of a bit of background, and the operational excellence pillar was added in 2016, and sustainability was added the last one a few years ago. So now we have this whole big, let's say, collection of best practices and guidance that we recommend customers to follow when they run or create and when they architect their workloads on AWS. That's kind of a bit of background and history. Any questions, or what would you like me to dive deep into?
No, yeah. Well, we're going to go into some of the tooling and some of the review process in a second, but a quick shout out from the chat. Good evening from India. Thank you for watching from India. Yeah, love the reach. And Steph as optimization queen. I feel like I need a little crown or something. Thank you very much. Love the optimization. But one thing that I was going to touch on as well is that the way I knew about the well-architected, or the pillars of the well-architected framework, yeah, that's the right word, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Is through the AWS certifications. So when I was first doing my associate solution architect one, was knowing that there were these different exam kind of columns that you would get questions into. I distinctly remember doing my first associate one and getting 100% on cost and like my lowest score on security, which is still the trend today. Like whenever a customer starts to bring up security questions, I'm like, please don't, because it's not my area. But knowing that but what was really cool, and I often say this when we speak to developers, like the shift left, is that the well-architected framework kind of covers all these different areas of cloud, and cost is equal to security, resiliency, and all these other ones. And so it is very vital. And so it's part of the job when you are developing. And we had a question, will there be a demo? Yes, there will be. So make sure you stick around.
I will go to the console and show a couple of things, and yeah.
Yeah, because there's a tool, right, that there's available.
There's a well-architected tool, yes. Yeah, and thanks, Steph, for mentioning that about the certifications. So in the past, I've been involved a little bit in writing a few questions for some of the certifications, and it's a very interesting process because all of our certifications, like, they have to strictly follow this best practices around well-architected. So every time people write questions and for the certifications, like, we need to make sure, and we do like around different rounds of reviews to make sure that the way the question is presented and the way the correct answer is presented, like, it is following the well-architected best practices. So yeah, thanks for that. That's a good point.
Yeah. And we had another question, which is, I am preparing for my cloud practitioner. Good luck. I love that. Is well-architected framework covered in there? I believe it is.
It is, I'd say, to a certain extent. Cloud practitioner is more about generally knowing about services, AWS services, what they do, kind of foundational services. Well-architected framework is covered to a certain extent, but like, let's say if you're just preparing and you're just getting into the cloud, I guess nobody expects you to straight away build enterprise level or architect enterprise level applications. So I guess you don't have to learn it by heart, but you definitely need to be familiar with the pillars, with the concepts, and some of the best practice areas, at least, to successfully pass the certification.
Yeah, definitely kind of have an understanding of what those things are. Okay, well, let's get into. Oh wait, sorry, we have one more question. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for asking these questions. I'm loving it. The last one is: are there any AWS Well-Architected Framework series on Bedrock and AI? Got to slip in Gen AI into these conversations.
Yes.
There is a blog that's just been released recently about well-architected AI solutions on Bedrock, so I would check that out. But Nat, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, so I might come back to that because I have a link to a solution that one of my team members in Americas built. It's now on the AWS examples. The kind of basically the solution that can help you automate the process of running well-architected framework reviews. And we also have a white paper. Later I'll find the link and post it. Maybe when we'll have like a break, as Steph will be talking about something, I'll try to find it about some best
white paper
practices
on.
regarding
Okay.
just best
Yeah.
practices regarding like AI, ML workloads and Gen AI workloads from well
Okay,
architected
brilliant.
perspective. Yeah, so we have guidance on that. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. So
Yeah, I
let's move
think.
over to demo.
Yeah, I think first maybe I'll give a bit
Yeah,
context regarding the cost, like why we
yeah.
kind of started from the FinOps, and then why I wanted to put like emphasis on the cost optimization pillar, just a little bit of background. Like at AWS, we say that cost optimization pillar was there first, and then over time we started developing like more capabilities and tooling, and then we came up with this like framework for the cloud financial management, right? So we have cloud financial management services and solutions that now most of the FinOps practitioners would be using. And so around the same time when cloud financial management sort of emerged, this is when all of the FinOps best practices and generally FinOps as a framework I guess was established. And it was interesting. I remember it was interesting when I was reading the FinOps. Actually, I have that book right there, Cloud FinOps.
Oh yeah, same. This is above me.
Yeah. When I was reading the Cloud FinOps book, and it was talking about some examples of customers that were implementing these best practices back in 2017, 16, and 18. I could like make those references to things that we were recommending to customers based on those best practices from cost optimization pillar from well architected. So yeah, all of this is connected, and I think we could maybe go to the demo part
Yeah,
where I will talk a little bit about the kind of review process and some other.
Yeah, sure. I want to know who has actually heard of this before. I'd be interested to know from the audience. One for yes, two for no. And I think I dropped was it the white paper on Bedrock and SageMaker that you were referring to? If that is the right one, then I've dropped that in the chat. If not, okay, so a lot of people have heard of it before. Awesome. So we can go into this tool with a good foundational knowledge from everybody. But yeah, do you want to demonstrate how we use the review?
Yeah, take a look. Let's take a look at that. So I mentioned that in the like well architected, we have 6 pillars, right? And typically what we tell customers is that they should have a process to do well architected reviews for their workloads if they want to make sure that they are running efficiently, that they improve their architectural health over time. And the idea is that technologies are evolving all the time, best practices are evolving, and maybe something that you built a few years ago, like it was good at the time, but maybe there are opportunities to improve. And we always want our customers to have secure environments, reliable, highly available, and of course while keeping costs under control. So that's why this whole well architected review process can be quite helpful on identifying different risks and opportunities to improve the workload. So I'll just show an example here. Like you can just search for the well architected tool amongst the services. So I'm already in the tool in the Ireland region. So this is a regional tool. So you would be able to create like and define workloads, let's say within a particular region, within the account. Sometimes what we also recommend customers that they might have, if they have a big organization with multiple accounts, you might have one account dedicated to the, let's say, well-architected reviews, or the teams, the individual teams could be running those well-architected reviews within their own accounts, and then sharing that review or sharing the workload with a specific dedicated, let's say, central account, so that the central maybe cloud platform team or architecture team could have a visibility of all the workload reviews that were done across organization. That's speaking about scale. Now what's interesting is that well, I already have some examples of workloads that I defined, and now we'll take a look at like an example of the cost optimization review that I
Okay.
was doing, right? We can later talk about kind of what it means to define the workload and who should be involved in this process. But for the review process itself, so when you have your workload kind of created and defined in the tool, then you will be presented with a list of questions that you can answer. And also, it is possible, you don't have to run the review across all 6 pillars at the same time. You can do it kind of as a phased approach. And also in the tool, you can kind of set your own priority of the pillars that you have. So depending on your kind of business priorities or depending on what's more urgent, you might kind of click edit here and then like move them around. So let's say in my example, I really want to do the review on the cost optimization in particular and see whether my team is following these best practices, whether workload is following these best practices from the cost optimization pillar guidance.
Okay.
So I already started the review process, so I'll just click continue reviewing. But if you just create the workload, you will have a button like start the review.
And
So
we had a quick question now, which
yeah.
was, how do you define a workload in this situation?
Okay. Let's as we are here, let's go back to this. So the important part is, so it will be different for every customer, it will be different for every organization. Typically a workload is something that delivers a capability. So let's maybe speak in examples or simple terms. It could, if it's like a simple 3-tier architecture, it's like a web app, let's say, or like an online shop. It could be your like front end, let's say, what your users are interacting with. That could be a workload. Or you could, again, depending on your organization or the scale of your organization, the scale of what you are delivering kind of as a business. If it's, let's say, a relatively small company, like your whole application, your whole website could be a workload. So that is something that you will have to define together with the, let's say, right stakeholders within your team or within your organization. And we can talk about stakeholders later. So for well-architected reviews, it's very important to have the right stakeholders in the room, either the decision makers or people who can actually implement the remediation of, let's say, any issues that might have been identified during the review process. So yeah, in my example here, like I was running some demos previously about our famous unicorn rentals app. So that was a whole workload. Like, but this is a small app. It's like a very small kind of application where customers can rent unicorns. So that is a workload. But again, it could also be like a much smaller scope if like the application itself is much bigger. So yeah, that's kind of a short answer on how do you define that workload. And well, while we are while we're talking about defining workloads, I'll also mention a bit about the right stakeholders. So depending also on which pillar you are reviewing, like let's say if you do a review for security, best practices for security pillar, it's likely that you might not need your FinOps team there, for example, or finance team. Or again, if you're doing a review for cost optimization, it's also likely that the security team doesn't have to be there. So depending on the kind of the pillars or what are your priorities, you need to make sure that the right stakeholders are in the room and they can answer the questions, and then they will be able to either own or advise the kind of future remediation steps. So let's just quickly go here and take a look what are the kind of topics, focus area, best practices around cost optimization. So yeah, the way how the workload review process works, it's called like it's a conversational discovery. So before going to the review, yeah, ideally you should have some understanding about the workload, and why you need different stakeholders is because different people will have different inputs about what the workloads can or cannot do, right?
Okay.
And for cost optimization in particular, we won't go through all the pillars, but let's just take a look at a few examples of questions that you would be asking these different stakeholders, and then you would have to capture some sort of feedback, right, for like future either remediation or follow-up. So as many of you might might have guessed, the very first question is how do you implement cloud financial management?
Okay.
So yeah, this is a very big kind of topic, and typically, for this question, you might likely need somebody from FinOps team, or again, depending on the organization, it could as well be somebody like a head of platform engineering, head of architecture, head of cloud operations team. So depending on the organizational structure, it's like there should be a person who should be able to answer this question to a
Yeah.
certain extent. Yeah.
Because we had a question, which is who should do the review for this architecture review? So the person who's leading it versus the people who answer the questions.
Yeah. So you might want to need. I'm sorry, I cannot English anymore.
You can tell that we have just come off of a plane.
We had a long week.
It's been a long couple of days.
Yes. So generally, we tell customers that they might want to have like a champion, like a review champion. And with some customers that I worked with, they defined, let's say, champions across multiple teams. And we can, let's say, help run initial enablement for those teams, like explain them how the workload review process works. And then they go out there and they conduct the reviews with the individual, let's say, engineering development teams internally. So let's say there is a champion, the person who knows how to connect all these different stakeholders that need to be in the room to answer questions and kind of capture the feedback about the health of the workload. And then ideally there should be a second person, like a note taker, because it's very hard to ask questions, ask clarifying questions, take notes, and then follow up. And so we generally recommend it should be two people, like a champion and maybe like sometimes we call it co-pilot or somebody who just like a helper. Yeah. And it can be somebody. So let's say if you do this review for a particular workload within a particular team, it can be somebody from that team, or it can be somebody from another team, like kind of as a non-biased party. That's totally up to you. And one recommendation that we have regarding like doing this at scale, if you want to do this more regularly, it's nice to establish like a kind of like a group of champions that might be doing these reviews with different teams. And it could be as well a FinOps team, or let's say if you have like a larger kind of FinOps team, or it could be somebody from Cloud Center of Excellence. Like a lot of customers have that function too. So here's first kind of question about cloud financial management. Some of these questions are slightly related to like organizational practices, and others are more workload specific. So that's why it's important to have like kind of different types of stakeholders potentially in one call and like within that review. Another one, the cost governance. Some of this might be a bit related to security in terms of kind of cost controls, who has access to what, different policies based on organizational requirements. Like sometimes we talk about this multi-account structures, like best practices around applying service control policies, restricting users from doing things, or allowing users to, let's say, access cost reports. So those are the examples that are covered by this question. And then another one, monitoring cost and usage. And yes, the further it gets, usually the less customer do of this best practices.
Oh, really? So it's like starting simple and then gets more kind of like
usually starting a bit more simple and more generic, and it gets a bit more specific later. And then, like for example, I was doing like a review, and let's say the first one, almost all the boxes were ticked in terms of cloud financial management. The kind of business metrics, the quantifying business value. It's a hard one. That's not a lot of customers have that. Apparently, the customer that I watched at the FinOpsX about the roast,
chicken.
yes, they had that checked in. Like what was it? The quantifying the sorry, I forgot about the roasting chicken. How much it costs to roast a chicken?
Oh, so if anyone's joined us like just halfway through and they're like, why are these guys talking about chicken?
Talking about chickens?
Then check out FinOpsX, the FinOps Foundation YouTube channel, and the videos up there from this event will showcase this roasted chicken.
Yes. So and then the further you go through the questions, so then you get workload specific questions. How do you decommission resources? The commissioning process is also interesting. Very often customers get stuck at the like automation part. Like, let's say they say, oh yeah, we get rid of idle resources, we get rid of resources we don't need, but then let's say the process is not automated, we do this like as a manual review once in a while. How do you evaluate cost when selecting services? This is also interesting because this is where we are talking about this kind of shift left approach, where you kind of need to consider whether you're doing things efficiently, before you deploy them. So there are different tools, for that, like for example, AWS pricing calculator in our case, that can be helpful. How do you meet cost targets? So again, it's kind of back to the question of KPIs. Or also it's about like right sizing and benchmarking your, let's say, application or your workload against certain, let's say, performance standards. Or so yeah, this is like a common mistake that people make when they like don't right size, right? When they over provision in the end. And it's very common, especially in lift and shift situations, when you just need to move quickly and worry about optimization later. And a few last questions are, yes, pricing models, of course. So this is interesting. Anything about reserved instances, savings plans, and spot falls into this category. And I usually have very in-depth conversation at this question because people start asking questions, how savings plans work, and those kind of things. Data transfer charges. I wonder if there will be any questions in the chat about that. Managing demand and supply, again, kind of scheduling, auto scaling. Those are like good techniques to like keep in mind when you're considering like how you're answering these questions. And then evaluating new services. Oh, well,
no.
I guess we will remove the demo and let me. I will try to re-sign in. Happens all the time.
That happened to me the other day on my live stream.
Evaluating new services kind of before you deploy. And last one, evaluating the cost of effort. So this is a difficult one because it's not only about the cost of your infrastructure, right, and what you're running. It's also the cost of like the time of engineering resources, how much time and effort it takes to maybe automate certain things, how much or whether are you automating or not, or whether you're doing things manually. So the whole, what I call is like total cost of ownership of everything, your operations, your infrastructure, resources, kind of development resources. So that's why it is, even though we say that the review process goes through like a workload, like you review the workload, but at the same time, there are certain organizational practices that you still need to be aware of. So that's very quickly about the review process, and I only went through the questions from cost optimization pillar, right? So what do you think, Steph, or do you have any questions, or do you have anything from the audience?
I like how concise it is. Like, it's only 11 questions, but you can dig out like loads of important information there. And we'll talk a little bit. We've had questions about what happens after you fill out the questionnaire. But Mike, can't wait to watch and learn about the roast chicken. I think it's just a very funny comment. So we know kind of who should do the report, the kind of run through, and then what these kind of questions look like. And I encourage everyone to go and have a look at this. It's free in your account, right?
Yes, the well-architected tool is free. And it also, so our team is constantly, our product team, I'm the SA on the team, but we have product team. The product team is constantly working on launching kind of new features and integrations, especially. One of the recent integrations we had with Jira, where, you can do your review process, and then you can, let's say, tick the boxes, and then you can leave some notes, and then, let's say, some of the boxes were not ticked, and then that, okay, we probably need to do some remediation, we need to implement some of these best practices. Then when you kind of complete the review, you save it, it will automatically create like Jira tickets for your developers, for your engineers to action it and to kind of create a plan how to remediate those issues. So depending on how serious the issue is, or how serious it is, like if you're not following a best practice, they will be put into like two categories: high risks or medium risks. So of course we recommend starting from implementing some of this remediation for high risks first. After the review process, so it's like you can see in the console, let's say, how many high risks or medium risks were identified for the workload. after the review, and you can also generate a report in the console, that
Perfect.
kind of a PDF report,
Yeah.
talking a bit more about these best practices and like what you can do. So depending on which format you choose, depending on the stakeholders, it could be, let's say, if it's like a management in the organization, they might want that kind of report to read through it. And like, as I said, there's Jira integration, so it can go directly to engineers to, let's say, fix whatever needs to be fixed. And it also integrates with Trusted Advisor, because I mentioned like this is like the conversational discovery. But for example, Trusted Advisor for customers who have business, enterprise on ramp, and enterprise support, they have the whole range of checks, and those checks are kind of fed into the well-architected tool. So while you're checking these best practices and tick boxes, you can kind of connect Trusted Advisor as well and see which of those automated checks can help you like identify, some of the resources.
Okay. So a couple of things to drill down in there, but one thing I want to touch on first is if you do have any feedback, questions you want to follow up with, you can always email us at costoptimization@amazon.com. I had someone the costoptimization@amazon.com. But you feel free to email us there. I had someone recently email me a massive, lovely email of feedback for a product feature request, which I raised for them. So feel free to spam me with your useful product feature requests. Not spam me too much. I get enough spam off them. And just to double check on the question here, which is how does the WA tool help customers after filling out the questionnaires? So we'll ask that first. So that's where it produces this report or integration into other channels, so you can start to action on the gaps. And these are gaps that we have identified.
Yeah, and also in the well-architected tool, you can save milestones. So what can be helpful is like you save your review as a milestone, and let's say you answer certain questions, and then you have certain like recommendations for remediation. And then let's say 3 months after, let's say you've implemented some changes, you can do another kind of shorter review. Typically, first one might take longer, and then the next one will be, shorter because you already implemented some best practices. Some of this is already in place. And then you can save, let's say, the next review as another milestone, and then you can compare them and see kind of the progress.
See how you do over time. Brilliant. And then the second half of this question is, should customers provide accurate details in questionnaires or approximates? I would say accurate, like be honest. I'm assuming that's right.
So the tool is for you. So the tool is for customers. So of course, like as ideally we want it to be as accurate. Not we. Ideally, you want it to be as accurate as possible, because then it will just give you, good information about, what to fix, where to fix, and well. On that note, I guess I'll give one example that sometimes I see it's challenging to get, let's say, accurate information from the attendees about the workload, because they're kind of afraid that it feels like, oh, we are like auditing them or something like that. It's well-architected review is not an audit. It is a collaborative exercise, and the purpose of it is to basically find improvements, and we want you to improve architectural health of your workloads. So of course, we want you to provide accurate information, because this is for your benefit. But it is possible that, let's say, people might not know the certain answers. So then it's fine, because then if you're not sure, if you don't know the answer, then the answer will be no. So you don't tick the box. It means that you don't follow the best practice. You can then follow up later, and then if you find out more information, you can kind of always update it. So
definitely. Like says the milestone thing is very cool. I sense new CID dashboard in future. Oh, not another one. No, I'm joking. We love the dashboards. We love the dashboards. And
thanks for feedback.
Someone was a CID dashboard with the Q Pro chat. Feel free to email if there's any. I will say if there's any intelligence dashboards feedback. Honestly, the best way of getting straight to that team is to check out their website, and on the top left-hand corner they have a feedback section. So I would recommend posting that in there. Okay, we have 2 minutes left, so I have one more I wanted to shout out, which was mentioned Trust Advisor at the end. So do we need to use all of WA tool, TA tool, customization hub, or where would you start?
Oh, okay. That will be a long answer, but okay, let me see.
Okay, very quick.
Very quick. It depends. It depends on the stakeholders, or like your role in the organization. And it also depends on kind of your, I guess, cloud maturity or where you are on your cloud adoption journey. And also you need to kind of work backwards from like what you're trying to achieve. So let's say, I'd say if this is like development teams, engineering teams, they are planning like a new launch, they're planning a new update in their application or workload, or they simply, maybe there was like an issue on an event or something happened and they want to again improve architectural health, they definitely should go ahead and check out and run the well-architected review. And if, let's say, it's like operating as normal and you're trying to just understand better from cost perspective, let's say if you're trying to understand better, have cost visibility, better cost reporting, then you should check the cloud financial management suite of products and tools, things like Compute Optimizer or the Cost Optimization Hub. And most likely those tools will be used by, for example, FinOps practitioners or leadership. Though we do recommend engineers and developers to look into their Compute Optimizer too.
Yes.
It's not just about cost, it's about cost and performance. And, it's about making those trade-offs. And as we hear from customers, performance always comes before cost. So Compute Optimizer gives you recommendations for both.
Yeah, and we just had a question, a point in the chat, which was, I only literally know about 10% of what they're talking about. Don't worry, there's two things to make sure that you know what we're talking about more. One is, like I said, tomorrow there is a Twitch show that I'm doing just a little bit later than the start time today. I'll post a link in a second, all about free tier, and we cover the basis. So we're doing a little bit about building out an account. So if you want to make sure that you know all about that, then feel free to check out that site, and I will just drop that link in the chat. But that is all from us. Let me pop this in here. Thank you so much, chat. You have been really engaging. There's a lot of conversations going on about other topics, helping each other, so really appreciate it. Don't forget, we'll be here next week. Next week, I believe we've got Salesforce coming on, which is pretty exciting to talk from their point of view. Natalia, thank you so much for jumping off a plane, coming straight onto Twitch with me. Really appreciate it. But we will see you all next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.